It's no secret that everyone loves Sosuke Aizen. He was a superb villain that constantly kept us glued to the screen as we were fascinated by his manipulative words and unpredictable actions. Next to Urahara, he is one of the smartest characters in the series, someone who rarely ever loses his composure and enjoys playing mind games with others. I compare his behavior to that of a lion that's playing with its prey after it has been caught. You know, Aizen is incredibly powerful, but he prefers to prolong his encounters with his opponents in order to instill feelings of despair and doubt. He thoroughly enjoys manipulating others and causing them emotional distress. Despite being very dangerously manipulative, many fans like myself fell in love with Aizen's charming and well-spoken demeanor. No matter the situation, you can rest assured knowing that Aizen had it planned all along. He was always 10 steps ahead of everyone, resulting in the infamous all according to Keikaku meme. After Aizen was defeated, he was sentenced to 20,000 years of imprisonment within the lowest level of the Soul Society's underground prison, Muken. It was safe to assume that this was the last that we were ever going to see of the sinister fan favorite manipulator. However, during the 1000-year Blood War arc, the Shinigami were left with no choice but to ask for his help, and so he had made his unexpected return within the story. In this video, I want to thoroughly explore the role of Aizen during the 1000-year Blood War arc. What made Yhwachs interested in wanting to recruit Aizen? Why did he end up helping the Soul Society? And was there any possibility of Aizen actually agreeing to work with the Quincy and joining Yhwachs' army of Stenritters? This is definitely going to be an interesting topic to dive into, so definitely make sure you stick around till the end of this video for some theories on Aizen's actions during Bleach's final arc. Before the video begins, only 20% of the people who actually watch my content are subscribed to the channel. If you enjoy these videos, then subscribe and stick around for more content just like this. Now let's get back to the topic of the video. During the Quincy's first invasion of the Soul Society, Yhwachs had visited Aizen within Muken and had offered to him a position within his army as one of his 5 great war powers. This was because of his incredibly high amount of Reiatsu that he had acquired after fusing with the Hokyoku and attaining transcendence. Sadly, this exchange between them occurs off screen, but we learn in chapter 510 that he had rejected his offer. Even during the course of this very short meeting, Aizen was able to distort Yhwachs' perception of time, proving that he has not lost his ways after 17 months of imprisonment. Aizen then doesn't appear within the story until another 100 chapters have passed, when the new head captain Shunsui visits Muken in order to ask for Aizen's help after the Soul King had been killed. He speaks with him as he comments upon the Soul Society shaking so much that even Aizen should be able to feel it within Muken, stating that the end of the Soul Society is near. Aizen hears him but does not respond. Shunsui states that he is aware that Aizen can hear his voice as he calls him out by his name. He then goes on to say that he was given permission to only use 3 keys to remove 3 of the many seals that have been placed on Aizen. He first removes the seal placed on Aizen's mouth, allowing him to respond with his voice instead of his spiritual pressure. Shunsui comments on how any ordinary person would struggle to speak after having their mouth sealed for 2 years, but this doesn't seem to be the case with Aizen, as we see him verbally agree with Shunsui, but strangely enough, he is now walking towards him. He is shocked to see that Aizen was able to remove the other seals on his body just by having the seal over his mouth removed. Menacingly, he questions Shunsui about still having 2 further keys that he can use to remove an additional 2 seals. He then proceeds to remove the seal placed over his left eye and his ankle, as Shunsui asks if he wants to get out of Muken, but Aizen states that he doesn't recall having asked to be let out. But Shunsui states that his desire to remove a further 2 seals is proof enough that he wants to leave this prison. Aizen then notices that Shunsui has the key to leave Muken within his body as a failsafe. We learn that he was only given permission to remove 3 of Aizen's seals if he was to bury the key to leave Muken within his heart. So if Shunsui is killed by him, then there will be no way to ever leave the prison. Aizen curses the Central 46 who had foreseen that he would have tried to kill Shunsui just to get the key to leave. He offers Aizen to sit and be restrained to a chair as they go up to the surface. He tempts him with the offer of fresh air that he will be able to breathe within the Soul Society, as one of the guards accompanying Shunsui attempts to restrain him, but he quickly has his hands severed with Aizen's Reiatsu. He warns them not to touch him, as their restraints will not eliminate his Reiatsu, but it will only keep it near to him. He then asks Shunsui what makes him think that he would want to help the Soul Society. He tells him that they are not asking for him to fight for them, but rather they have a shared interest, because neither the Soul Society or Aizen want to be ruled over and controlled by Yhwachs. This leaves Aizen with a predicament as he wonders if he wants to breathe the air of the Soul Society that is about to be crushed by Yhwach. I can still remember when I was reading these chapters for the first time and understandably feeling like Aizen cannot be trusted and how Shunsui may have made a huge mistake by freeing him. If Aizen doesn't comply, then the Shinigami have two big bad villains to fight against. These concerns were further reinforced when the Gotei 13 had challenged Shunsui about the reckless decision that he had made. In chapter 621, we see that Aizen has been brought up to the Soul Society while being restrained to his chair. The other Shinigami immediately senses Reiatsu, which crushes the black creatures that begin pouring down upon the Serite. He criticizes the Shinigami for trying to get rid of them with their Zanpakuto when they could easily crush them with their Reiatsu, like how he is doing. He greets Rukia and Renji after seeing their shocked expressions. He comments on how it has been a long time, as he congratulates Rukia for being promoted to a lieutenant, stating that he is glad that her efforts are finally being recognized. Of course, nobody is too pleased to see Aizen, and I love how calm and smug he remains, despite him being stuck to a chair with limited mobility. After leaving Muken, it seems as though he is back to his usual self, remaining calm and collected. After the members of the Gotei 13 argue with their new head captain about his decision to free Aizen, he pushes his luck by asking if Shunsui would mind removing the restraints from his arms, to which he refuses. He states that he was only allowed to remove 3 seals. Aizen then goes on to complain about how he is expected to defeat these black creatures while sitting down, but Shunsui rightfully states that he should have no problem doing so because he doesn't expect him to sit there and do nothing while the creatures begin to bite away at his body. The Shinigami run into the safety of the lab as they leave Aizen out in the open against the creatures. This is pretty funny how Shunsui doesn't tolerate his smartass attitude. He even pushes Aizen to admit to himself that he is difficult to deal with. He then activates his signature Hado number 98 Kurohitsugi as he proves once again that he has an unlimited supply of Reiatsu at his disposal, despite the fact that he has many seals still placed on his body. It is evident from Urahara and Renji's remarks that Aizen has in fact gotten stronger while being detained within Muken, but Aizen on the other hand is more surprised about the fact that the chair had remained intact despite being directly in the center of his Kurohitsugi. He then offers to shoot down the royal palace for the Shinigami as he continues to defy any form of orders, proving to be very unpredictable and difficult to work with. While he charges up his spiritual pressure to fire it up into the sky, it dissipates as we learn that the chair that he is sat on is keeping his Reiatsu near to him and not letting him unleash it. Mairi states that the chair was created by him, and there is no other technology quite like it. It was made with the purpose of controlling prisoners who cannot be killed. He can control the level of Reiatsu Aizen can unleash with the device that he is holding. Aizen then challenges him to dial it up and see if his technical expertise are any match against his power, but they are interrupted when the Sternritter Nanana attacks Aizen, but the Quincy is surprised to see that Aizen has not passed out from the attack. In chapter 624, we see him speaking with Shunsui, who asks him to wait in the Soul Society as they open the gate to the royal palace. He comments on the Quincy and Shinigami now working together in order to protect the Soul Society, after Bazby and the other Quincy's who had felt betrayed joined forces with the Gotei 13. He is frustrated that his enemies will be reaching the royal palace before him, paying particular attention to how Ichigo is currently there, as he calls him insufferable. After they leave for the royal palace, we next see Aizen in chapter 654 within the Serite, watching as fragments of Lil fall down around him. He wonders what on earth is going on up there. Much later on in chapter 682, after Yhwach arrives at the Serite, Aizen goes on to welcome him to his Soul Society, as Yhwach immediately proceeds to destroy the chair that Aizen was sitting on. Now that he is free to move, he challenges him, but Yhwach finds it funny that he is choosing to fight for the Soul Society, but Aizen clarifies that he will fight anyone who tries to control him and his reality. Aizen at this point activates his Kyokasu to make Yhwach believe that Ichigo and Renji are attacking him from behind. When he attacks Ichigo, Aizen disguises himself as Renji, trying to attack him but to no avail, as his left arm ends up being severed. He then makes it appear as though he is protecting Renji as he uses the powerful Hado 99 Goryu Tenmetsu, which breaks apart the ground beneath him, summoning a large demon made up of reishi. He then rushes towards Yhwach, who tells him that his Kyokasu is already broken, pushing him back with a blast of energy. Aizen then returns once more but disguised as Ichigo, appearing behind Yhwach as he shatters the Tensa Zangetsu blade, commenting on how Ichigo's efforts of fighting alongside Kyokasu were futile. He then blows a hole through Ichigo's body, as it is then revealed that Yhwach had been under the influence of Kyokasu this entire time, and he had made himself appear as Ichigo and Renji to him thanks to his powers. The real Ichigo then arrives onto the battlefield and impales Yhwach from behind, while firing a Getsuga Tensho through his body. Yhwach then appears to dissolve into the ground as Aizen compliments Ichigo on reacting to his Kyokasu. He explains how he was able to successfully use his power against the Almighty, going on to admit that he did not assume that concealing his Shikai release from Ichigo would come in handy like this. But suddenly Aizen is then consumed by Yhwachs' darkness, as this brings to an end Aizen's involvement within the 1000-year Blood War arc. We see him again after Yhwachs' defeat when he is back within Muken commenting on Yhwachs' goal, as he gives his iconic speech on courage. Some people had assumed that Aizen was stupid to have refused Yhwachs' offer to join his army during the first invasion. Now admittedly this would have led to Aizen wearing a cool new Stenritter outfit, but I think that having him join another villain's army is an out of character thing for him to do. If we recall, Aizen had desired to stand at the top of the heavens as the new ruler of reality, desiring to replace the Soul King. He did not share Yhwachs' goal of wanting to merge the worlds together as one, thus removing the cycle of life and death. Aizen's speech about courage at the end of Bleach was also an explanation of why he had refused to side with Yhwach. He believes that death is necessary so that we are aware and fearful of our own mortality, while at the same time facing it every day and choosing to continue moving forward courageously. Without the concept of death, people would have little reason to live aside from existing for the sake of it. There would be no real value for one's own lifespan. Only Aizen, who has attained immortality, can comment upon this. If Aizen had joined Yhwachs' army, then sure, we would have seen a lot more of him, but I like the fact that he had rejected the offer. As for seeing more of Aizen during the 1000-year Blood War arc, I would prefer if Kubo had expanded upon Aizen's battle against Yhwach, possibly even unveiling his Bankai in an attempt to defeat the Almighty. I believe that this would have been a better way to extend Aizen's role within the final arc. Now, because of the way that Kubo writes the story, it always gives us a huge sense of hype, but it leaves us wanting to see so much more. As we see a glimpse of Aizen battling Yhwach, but it was far from matching our expectations, since he had only used his Kyoka and tricked him momentarily. During their short encounter, he had allowed himself to be injured so that Ichigo could land the surprise attack, thus ending his role within the arc. It is evident that this final battle was rushed, and sadly this is the case with the finale of the 1000-year Blood War arc. A lot of the battles with the Schutzstaffel felt rushed, and the story was quickly wrapped up with so much yet to tell. After the final arc, we find out that Aizen had allowed himself to be sealed again. After all, he is immortal, and I assume that he is willing to wait it out and serve his 20,000-year sentence, or that he doesn't mind waiting for the Soul Society to collapse or to await their return to ask for his help again with another threat. Personally, I loved how Aizen teamed up with Ichigo at the end of the arc, and even went as far as to explain why he had disagreed with Yhwach's beliefs. There was a clear distinction between both of their goals. He refused to help to create a world without the fear of death because people would not have the courage to live and oppose threats like Yhwach in the world that he had wanted to create. Admittedly, there is a lot left to be desired following Aizen's appearance within the final arc. We definitely need a flashback about his past, learning more about how he had come to learn about the truth of the Soul King, including the change that occurs within his character, which had led to him refusing to side with Yhwach. When was it that he had come to accept that eliminating death would be disastrous for the future of mankind? Was this after he had become immortal? Whatever the case may be, Aizen was the best choice to have spoken about Yhwach's goals at the end. He in fact has no fear of death in his current state, so only he can comment upon the consequences of getting rid of it, how people wouldn't have the courage to fight for their beliefs, and everything would be inconsequential, as people would live because they have no choice but to. Living with our relatively short lifespans and being reminded of our inevitable deaths is what pushes people to make the most of the time that they are given, and I think that this is exactly what Aizen was speaking about. When you are given only a few decades on this earth, you have no choice but to be courageous and not to worry about growing frail and eventually dying. Those who are aware of all of this and still decide to strive for a better future are the ones Aizen had referred to as courageous. I would have loved to see more of Aizen during the 1000-year Blood War arc, and I especially want to see his first meeting with Yhwach when he had refused the offer to join his army, as well as extending the battle against Yhwach where we can see him properly use his Kyoka to trick him. Now, what were your thoughts about his involvement? Did you want to see more of Aizen during this arc? Are there any moments that you want added or expanded upon within the anime? Definitely continue the discussion about Aizen's role within the 1000-year Blood War arc in the comments. I can't wait to read all of your thoughts on this character's unexpected involvement during the finale of Bleach. And lastly, thank you for making it to the end of this video, and I can't wait to see you in my next Bleach video. If you enjoy my content, then you can support my channel through Patreon for as little as $1 a month, or even through YouTube by becoming a channel member. You will gain access to exclusive channel perks and a Discord server which I frequently use. So become a member of my Zero Division and be the first to know about my upcoming videos. And once again, thank you for sticking around till the end of the video, and whatever you contribute will mean a lot to me.